Have you ever felt like you were slowly losing your mind in a relationship, questioning every memory, every feeling, every reaction you have while your partner remains eerily calm and collected? Why gaslighting feels worse with an avoidant partner isn't just about the manipulation itself. It's about how their unique emotional style turns psychological manipulation into a perfect storm that can shatter your sense of reality. When someone with avoidant attachment uses gaslighting tactics, the combination creates one of the most devastating relationship dynamics imaginable. The very traits that define avoidant attachment, emotional distance, difficulty with vulnerability, and the tendency to minimize feelings, become weapons that make gaslighting exponentially more effective and harmful. Understanding this toxic combination will help you recognize when you're not just dealing with someone who struggles with intimacy, but someone who uses that struggle to control and manipulate your perception of reality. The insights you'll gain today will explain why these relationships feel like walking through quicksand made of confusion and self-doubt. You'll discover why your usual ability to trust your instincts seems to vanish around these individuals, and why even the most confident people can find themselves questioning their own sanity. This knowledge isn't just about understanding a relationship dynamic, it's about protecting your mental health and learning to recognize the signs before they destroy your ability to trust yourself. The patterns revealed here will show you how avoidant partners weaponize your need for emotional connection, turning your desire for closeness into a tool for psychological control. Most importantly, you'll learn why traditional advice about dealing with gaslighting falls short when the gaslighter has mastered the art of emotional unavailability. If you want to better understand someone's attachment style, see the link in the description to one of the most popular books on attachment theory. Picture a crisp October morning in Brooklyn where Love Quinn from the Netflix series You sat staring at her phone, reading the same text message for the 20th time. Her partner of 8 months had just sent her a message that made her question everything she thought she knew about their last conversation. 3 days earlier, they had what she believed was a serious discussion about moving in together. She remembered every detail: where they were sitting, what he was wearing, the exact words he used when he said he was excited about taking the next step. She remembered how relieved she felt, how the conversation had eased months of anxiety about where their relationship was heading. But his text seemed to come from a parallel universe. I think you misunderstood what we talked about. I never said I wanted to move in together. I said maybe someday we could think about it. You're putting words in my mouth again. Love stared at those words until they blurred. The phrase, "putting words in my mouth again," hit her like a punch to the stomach. When had she done this before? She searched her memory frantically, trying to recall other times he had accused her of misremembering or exaggerating. Slowly, like pieces of a puzzle she didn't want to solve, incidents began surfacing. The time he claimed he never promised to attend her friend's wedding, even though she distinctly remembered him saying yes. The evening he insisted he had told her he was working late, when she was certain he had just vanished without explanation. Each memory felt solid and real to her, but his certainty about his version made her question everything. What made this particularly devastating was his delivery style. Unlike partners who gaslight through explosive anger or dramatic accusations, his approach was quiet, almost clinical. He would state his version of events with such calm certainty that questioning him felt like attacking an innocent person. When Love tried to explain what she remembered, he would listen with what appeared to be patient concern, then respond with phrases like, "That's not what happened, but I can see why you might remember it that way. You were pretty emotional that night." The implication was always the same. Her emotions had clouded her judgment, making her an unreliable narrator of her own experiences. The turning point came during what should have been a romantic dinner at their favorite restaurant. Love had been feeling increasingly disconnected from him and decided to address the pattern she was noticing. She had prepared carefully, writing down specific examples and dates to avoid being told she was being dramatic or remembering wrong. When she began sharing her concerns, something chilling happened. As she spoke, she watched his face transform from seeming attention to what could only be described as mild amusement. It was subtle, a slight upturn at the corner of his mouth, a barely perceptible eye roll, but it was there. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that changed everything. "Love, I think you might need to talk to someone professional about this. It's not healthy to constantly misremember conversations and then blame me for your confusion. I care about you, which is why I'm trying to help you see this pattern." The words were delivered with such apparent concern that anyone overhearing would have thought he was being supportive. But Love felt like she was drowning. He had just taken her attempt to address his gaslighting and turned it into evidence that she needed therapy for her supposed memory problems. The most insidious part was how he used his avoidant attachment style as both shield and sword. When she became upset, he would become even more emotionally distant, claiming that her intensity made it impossible for him to think clearly. "This is exactly why I have trouble opening up," he would say. "When you get like this, it makes me want to shut down." He positioned her natural emotional responses to his manipulation as proof that she was the problem in the relationship. Her tears became evidence of instability. Her need for clarity became clinginess. Her memory of conversations became delusions. The revelation came when Love discovered he was using nearly identical phrases with his ex-girlfriend, whom she met by chance at a coffee shop. As they talked, the woman shared experiences that were eerily similar to Love's own. The same accusations of putting words in his mouth, the same claims that emotions were making her remember things wrong, even the same suggestion that she needed professional help for her patterns. But what struck Love most was something the ex said. The worst part wasn't that he lied about what happened. It was how he made me feel crazy for remembering what actually happened. That conversation illuminated the perfect storm that occurs when avoidant attachment meets gaslighting. The ex explained how his emotional distance made it nearly impossible to pin down what was real and what wasn't. He never got emotional when he was rewriting history, she said. He was always so calm, so rational sounding, and because he never seemed to care that much about anything, you started to think maybe you were the one who was too invested, too emotional, too much. This emotional flatness, a hallmark of avoidant attachment, became the delivery system that made his gaslighting devastatingly effective. The final piece clicked when Love realized that his avoidant behaviors weren't just personality quirks, they were tools. His emotional unavailability meant she was always hungry for connection, making her more likely to doubt herself when he contradicted her reality. His tendency to minimize emotions meant her natural reactions to his behavior could be dismissed as overreactions. His discomfort with conflict meant that addressing problems became something she had to initiate, putting her in the position of always being the difficult one who brought up issues. Understanding why gaslighting feels exponentially worse with an avoidant partner requires recognizing the unique vulnerabilities this attachment style creates in their victims. First, understand that avoidant partners gaslight from a position of emotional detachment that makes their manipulation seem reasonable rather than malicious. When someone screams at you while twisting your reality, you can clearly identify the abuse. But when someone calmly and quietly rewrites history while maintaining an air of rationality, the manipulation feels almost reasonable. Their emotional distance creates an illusion of objectivity that makes you question your more emotional responses to their behavior. Second, recognize how their discomfort with emotions becomes a weapon against your mental clarity. Avoidant partners will often respond to your emotional reactions to their gaslighting by becoming even more distant and claiming that your emotions are preventing rational discussion. They'll say things like, "I can't talk to you when you're like this," or "Let's discuss this," when you can be more logical. This response serves two purposes. It shuts down the conversation where you might expose their manipulation, and it reinforces the idea that your emotional responses are invalid or excessive. Third, pay attention to how they use their attachment struggles as justification for reality-distorting behavior. They might claim that their difficulty with memory or emotional processing explains why they remember conversations differently. They'll position their avoidant tendencies as innocent quirks while framing your need for emotional connection and clarity as unhealthy demands. This creates a dynamic where addressing their gaslighting becomes evidence that you're being too needy or expecting too much emotional availability. Fourth, notice how their pattern of emotional withdrawal amplifies the impact of gaslighting. When someone gaslights you, then remains emotionally present, you have opportunities to work through the confusion and seek clarity. But avoidant partners will typically gaslight you, then withdraw, leaving you alone with the confusion and self-doubt they've created. This isolation prevents you from processing what happened and increases the likelihood that you'll start questioning your own perceptions. The most crucial skill is learning to trust your reality, regardless of how calm and rational their contradictions sound. Keep detailed records of important conversations, not because you plan to use them as evidence, but because having them helps you maintain connection to your own experiences. When they claim something didn't happen or happened differently, resist the urge to immediately doubt yourself. Instead, sit with your memory and ask yourself, what do I remember and how did I feel at the time? Your emotions and physical reactions to conversations are often more reliable indicators of what actually occurred than their calm revisionist history. Remember that healthy relationships don't require you to constantly question your own memory and perceptions. If you find yourself regularly confused about what was said or what was agreed upon, you're likely dealing with someone who is deliberately creating that confusion. The goal isn't to prove you're right about specific incidents. It's to recognize patterns that indicate you're being manipulated and to protect yourself accordingly. Most importantly, understand that you cannot logic your way out of being gaslit by someone with avoidant attachment. Their emotional distance isn't a bug in their manipulation system. It's a feature. They're not accidentally making you feel crazy. They're systematically undermining your trust in your own reality while maintaining plausible deniability through their attachment style. Your job isn't to make them see reason or to prove your version of events. Your job is to protect your mental health and maintain your connection to your own truth. The combination of gaslighting and avoidant attachment creates one of the most psychologically damaging relationship dynamics because it attacks your reality while appearing reasonable and measured. The person systematically erasing your experiences doesn't seem angry or obviously manipulative. They seem concerned, rational, and emotionally mature. This makes it incredibly difficult to identify what's happening until significant damage has been done to your ability to trust yourself. The key to protecting yourself lies in understanding that this isn't about two people having different memories or perspectives. This is about one person's consistent pattern of undermining the other's reality while using their attachment style to make that undermining seem reasonable. When someone regularly makes you question your memory, your emotions, and your perceptions while maintaining an air of calm rationality, you're not dealing with attachment issues. You're dealing with psychological abuse dressed up in the language of emotional unavailability. Your sanity and sense of reality are precious resources that deserve protection. You don't owe anyone access to your mind in ways that leave you confused and doubting yourself. Healthy relationships might involve disagreements about what happened, but they don't involve one person consistently making the other feel crazy for remembering their shared experiences. Trust your instincts, document your reality, and remember that you deserve relationships that enhance your sense of self rather than erode it. The confusion you feel isn't a sign that you're too emotional or mentally unstable. It's a sign that someone is deliberately creating confusion to maintain power over you. Your emotional responses to manipulation aren't evidence of your instability. They're evidence of your sanity fighting to protect itself. Healing from this dynamic requires time, patience, and often professional support to rebuild your trust in your own perceptions. But recovery is possible, and your ability to recognize these patterns now will protect you from similar situations in the future. You are not broken for having been affected by this manipulation. You are not weak for having trusted someone who used that trust against you. You are strong for recognizing what happened and brave for choosing to protect yourself going forward. Gaslighting is only part of the story. Next, we'll uncover how avoidance twists your reality and make you doubt yourself.